Welcome to the Reboot Chronicles, connecting you to the world's top leaders and CEOs rebooting their organizations and themselves with revealing stories to help you prosper in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeBias, and as a serial CEO who's led dozens of companies that created thousands of jobs and billions in revenue, my passion is uncovering powerful lessons that can inspire you to reboot your organization, your career, and your life. Listen and subscribe wherever you get podcasts or at rebootchronicles.com. I'd like to welcome Sandeep Kalra to the Reboot Chronicles. He is the CEO and Executive Director on the board of Persistent Systems, a $1.2 billion global services and solutions company with a team of over 23,000 people around the world. A tech pioneer, since taking over as CEO, Sandeep has been rebooting this public company from a specialized technology provider into a rapidly scaling digital transformational player, with a growing number of large enterprises partnering with this expanding global brand. Sandeep, it's good to see you.
Thank you for hosting me and look forward to our discussion.
Yeah, it's you came in at a very interesting time where this company was kind of, very I guess I'd call it very niche oriented, very, very focused. Love to hear a little bit about your reboot story when you came in and how you took this thing to pretty big global player. It seems like your growth numbers have been off the charts. So love to hear a little backstory on that. How's it been going?
So, Dean, everything is going fine, and let me take a little bit of a historical perspective and then put the thread through what we've done in the last 5 years. So, if you look at the firm was started by our founder chairman, Dr. Anand Deshpande. In fact, he was here in the US for his studies, worked for a bit with HP Labs, went back to India in 1990, and started the firm. The firm for the first 10 years was focused on doing work for independent software vendors, the likes of Microsoft and a few other firms, mostly doing outsourced product development. In the early 2000s, not many people know it, but Norwest Ventures, which is a leading venture capital fund,
Oh, yeah.
Intel Capital, and Gabriel Ventures invested in the firm. 2010, as the firm expanded into international markets in a bigger way, establishing footprint in Europe along with other pieces within the US, the firm went public in 2010, and that's when it got listed in the Indian stock exchanges, both on National Stock Exchange and the Mumbai Stock Exchange. The firm thereon grew well till about 2017-18 when it hit a little bit of a road bump in terms of growth. And that's where the chairman, CEO at that point in time, Anand Deshpande, decided to do a reboot, bringing in a professional set of folks to run the management right from the CEO down. And that's the time roughly when I joined in May 2019.
So
Fast
he brought in the pros, the rebooters, starting with you.
Yeah, that's what the hope was, and that has thankfully played out well. So from 2019 till today, if we look at it, we are among the faster growing companies in our sector. Not
Yeah.
only are we, very good at what we inherited in terms of doing product development for tech companies and our foray into banking, financial services, and healthcare life sciences, we have built on the journey. Today, if you look at the last 5 years, we have grown at possibly the highest clip in our sector. We've grown from being a $481 million company way back in 2019 to $1.2 billion roughly as of today. And a market cap, since we are a listed company, that's another barometer of how the world looks at you, from a market cap of $700 million to roughly about $9.5 billion as of today. So that's
Right.
the long story short, and we can delve into the details.
It's interesting. We've had top leaders from Deloitte, Accenture, a lot of the big 10 consulting companies on over the years. And unlike you, they kind of acquired their way into the deep stack world you guys started out as a heavy duty, deep tech product base. We can build this company. There's not too many of them. They're actually doing work for Google and Microsoft. they're usually, maybe working on their ad campaigns and stuff. So how has that positioned you guys to just be a different player competitively, of course, in this global? You're in a tough space. The bidding wars and getting projects and getting these long-term deals are very competitive these days. So how does your legacy actually help you there, or did the reboot transform the company so much it doesn't matter?
Yeah. So the legacy definitely works for us, Dean. If you look at it from our perspective, we were the guys building products for the who's who in the product landscape. And
Yeah.
as the technologies moved, even the enterprise application development started to morph and feel like, look like the same way, the same agile development that is done in the product companies. The same concepts like an SRE, etc., DevOps, etc., became very important for the enterprises. So the choices were clear. If you are a healthcare life sciences company, if you are a bank trying to compete with a fintech, a healthcare company trying to compete with a health tech, who do you want to work with? A traditional outsourcer who's also trying to learn how to develop applications that feel like, look like products, or a company that has built products for the product companies and that can be helping you launch yourself at a bigger scale. So our legacy definitely helped, and we kept on building on our capabilities. We also did some inorganic part where we brought in smaller companies for building capabilities. And today, if you whether you look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant for cloud, whether it is cloud based native development, lift shift migration of
Yeah.
data infrastructure, and so on and so forth, we are right up there as a challenger.
You're up in the top right corner, usually on the Gartner quadrant. You
Yes,
know,
that is all working very well for us.
so your growth has been both, what I call build, buy, borrow, building things internally, acquiring, you acquired, I think, Starfish and some other things, as well as borrowing, which is partnering. Tell me about the buying stack that so you acquired Starfish. What kind of capabilities have you picked up along the way there?
Sure. So earlier on, we decided the strategic roadmap for our growth should include capabilities build that we can do ourselves. And there are times where there's a time to market advantage by bringing in capabilities from outside. So if in the last 5 years you look at it, we have brought in companies on the Google stack. So we acquired a company called Media Agility to build our capabilities on Google. Similarly, a capability built on Azure in payments with a company called SCI, and in the middleware integration space with a company called Capyard. The latest one is the company that you're referring to, Starfish, which is
Yep.
essentially in the contact center space. And as we are building our company towards the next phase where we believe AI is going to disrupt a number of places, there are a number of horizontal use cases such as contact center where we can use technology to bring in significant disruption, reduce the operating expenses in a contact center space, and that's where Starfish fits in very nicely. The folks who started Starfish are people who have worked in the contact center industry for long. They have a small provisioning engine which can help manage multiple different contact center technologies in a large enterprise, whether it is a team, Avaya, Genesis, Amazon Connect, and the others, and also help companies transform that landscape onto the latest in the cloud, whether it is from the likes of an AWS or others. So that's the play that we have had in terms of building capabilities, bringing in smaller tuck-in acquisitions.
For those of you non-tech people listening, and there's some heavy-duty capabilities that he's talking about with all these acquisitions. It's interesting. You throw out big names like Microsoft and Google. There's not too many companies that are partnering with both, especially when you talk about their cloud platforms. They're extremely competitive. And then there's AWS, of course. But yeah, how do you stay an arms dealer? What's your advice to CEOs about staying kind of Switzerland arms dealer? It seems like you've done that
Yeah.
dance well.
Yeah, so your analogy of being a Switzerland is the apt analogy here. See, look, at the end of the day, our capabilities are in the service of our customers. And when we go and service our customers, we cannot be biased towards one technology or the other. There are use cases that lend themselves to be very good with respect to its technology stack on the cloud from a Microsoft of this world. There are many sectors that may want to work with a Google. The consumer side may want to work more with the Google side of the world. There are many business applications that lend themselves much better to the AWS stack. So we have to come across and we have to genuinely be an independent consultant, keeping our customers' interest at heart, and then partnering with the who's who in the world.
Yeah. And what about the impact of, without getting too geeky here, low code, no code? A lot of people are telling me, "Hey, Dean, I can just do this myself now." I'm like, "Really? Show me." Um, it doesn't seem as robust. Those
Yeah.
seem like very thin layers of applications that someone like a Dean could actually write on a
Yeah.
weekend. But is that impacting the maybe not your company, but the sector in terms of capabilities and
Yeah. So the low code, no code, you know, parlance has been there for the last several years. We, in fact, partner
yeah,
with the leaders in low code, no code with companies like Appian, OutSystems, Uncock, and even work on the low code, no code side from Microsoft's of this world. But look, there's a place for every part of this in different technology landscapes. There are use cases where you may use a low code, no code platform to get there rapidly, and where you don't believe that you have a application that has to last you for the next 5 to 10 years. But if you are building for the longer run, where you do not want to have licensing costs from even these low code, no code providers, you may want to evaluate a full stack. So there are horses for courses. There are places where low code no code can play a role, and more so in workflow applications where you already have a number of systems. You're trying to simplify, you're trying to give the end user a modern look and feel without necessarily messing around with all the systems underneath.
Without recreating the wheel and
Yeah.
all the legacy systems. So we talk a lot about the impact of technology on the show. Obviously, we talk about growth and innovation because without that, we're doomed, in my opinion. The so when you look at AI, and you look at your verticals and your client base, so far you mentioned health tech and fintech and how you help them kind of go against, the big legacy guys. How do they compete with a lot of the startups in the space? Some which won't be around, but others are overly funded and coming at their sector. So, two questions there. Yeah, how do you actually drill down on that? How are you actually helping them? The big old companies, the legacy guys, compete with the next gen, and then maybe we'll jump into some AI after that.
Right. So there are two parts to it. When we look at the overall sectors, and AI has been there in our play for quite some time. Let me intersperse the two at least to begin with, and then we can dig into any direction that you want. So the way we are looking at AI is there's AI for tech. So there's AI in building software products, platforms, applications, etc., etc. And this could also mean that if you look at the large companies which have been there for long, there were a number of legacy applications that they were earlier very wary of looking at modernizing, because they may not even have the people who build those applications. They may not even understand sometimes the business logic that went behind those applications and so on. And today, AI and generative AI is giving us the tools to be able to reverse engineer them pretty quickly, and with some amount of heavy lifting, build tools to do legacy application migration to newer ones using AI, where it is not necessarily entirely a human effort, but a certain amount of effort can be done using these AI tools, and it makes it easier for even developers to understand legacy applications and then modernize them. So that is
Wow. So that, yeah, before you jump to the other application, that is pivotal because, look at like a JP Morgan Chase, One Sector, or United Airlines, these old systems that
yep,
you said that the people that wrote this stuff are retired. And some of them, it's basically green screen technology. For those of you that can't remember that, it wasn't pretty. So AI actually can help you dissect that and then move forward. So that's a great one. I like that.
right. And
What
then there
else?
are there are many use cases in the enterprise, and where, for example, you have a multitude of, let's say, for example, you are a JP Morgan, you have multitude of reporting tools that you have invested in. You may have invested in different high cost technologies, and I would not name the vendors, but there are multiple of those reporting tools that can be then using AI, and using people like us who have built tools using AI to migrate all of that to, let's
Right.
say, a Microsoft stack or an open source stack, which basically not only standardizes on one side and makes it easy for the enterprise to maintain that entire stack, but also reduces the opex in terms of licensing cost and optimizes the number of reports, etc., etc. So there are many different use cases along with the contact center use case that we talked about. On the other hand, we have built a platform called Sasva. This is more to do with software product engineering, where we are on one side looking at doing newer product development. On the other side, we are looking at legacy maintenance. There are use cases of this in both sides, and I can even showcase it to our customers, and that's where we are winning big in the market. This platform gives us the ability, you can actually talk to the platform and say, hey, I'm trying to build a new product for this particular use case, and as you are talking, it is asking you questions, and it's helping you build together a product requirement document down to the technical requirement document down to the things. So it is basically helping you start, instead of a green or a white paper or a white sheet of paper, giving you a starting point where 30-40% of it is already there, and then you are building on top of it. And by using tools like this, on the other end, in the maintenance side of it, we can use automation to such an extent that a bug that you fix in one can be automatically fixed in many others. So instead of the human doing the making and checking, the human does the checking part more, and the AI is driving the making part, and it is hugely productive.
So it sounds like you're helping some of the biggest brands both improve their efficiency, and which all that was, and but also focusing on growth. What is your business, half and half, or what's the mix look like?
So I would say about 30% of our business would be where we are helping people manage their systems, processes, etc. for less. 70% of the business is focused on growth, and a lot of times people think growth is discretionary, but it may not necessarily be, because if
Hmm.
you look at some of the larger health player as well, in, let's say, insure tech or insurance and other things, there's a number of initiatives to modernize their platforms. Because if you are a healthcare insurance kind of a company, the amount that you're going to get from the Fed is going to be lesser over a period of time. So if that is the case, then you have to use technology to build platforms to have your operations much more prudently costed. And that's where a number of those builds are coming to people like us than the regular or the business as usual SIs who are in the business of building applications, not products, and using AI.
Yeah, love it. So a lot of CEOs are trying to figure out how to do this, whether they're your competitors or just totally unrelated. But you've doubled the size of the business. How do you double it again? How do you become a multi-billion-dollar company? What's your crystal ball looking like these days?
Yeah. So there are multiple facets to it. On one side, you have to look at which segments you are in. How do you go deeper into certain capabilities within those segments? So, for example, for us, healthcare, life sciences, and banking financial services are the two industry verticals, along with tech. Tech, we have a fairly good, seat to the table, right to win. Banking financial services, healthcare, life sciences, there are some segments where we are the strongest. We are bolting on capabilities into that by acquiring either vertical specific companies or horizontal specific companies like Starfish that we talked about. So on one side we are looking at increasing the TAM. On the other side we are increasing the capabilities from an next generation perspective, like building AI platforms, tools, etc., so that we are sharper than our fastest competition. The third side is, obviously, as an organization you are as good as your team is. So building the talent, investing in the talent build, both upgrading the talent that you have, and wherever you have white spaces, build, bringing in leaders from outside, and then rallying the whole troops around a common goal. So we have done that before. We have a goal of reaching $2 billion over the next 3 years. We are nicely poised towards that, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I believe you. I believe you're probably sandbagging. You've uh, you've got some good growth prospects. You mentioned people, so you're pretty much a New Jersey headquartered company. Or at least that's your flag here in the U.S. What is the culture like? How has it changed as you've doubled in size of the company?
Yeah. So interestingly, Persistent has always been a very employee friendly culture as a company, and it has been a place where people have joined, and there are so many people who are here for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and so on.
Wow.
Obviously, when you are growing very fast, and that too combined with challenges like COVID, where for a certain period of time when you hired people, they wouldn't even go to your offices. So building the culture, retaining that culture is obviously one of the bigger areas of focus for us, and we have set several different initiatives around this. But I can tell you, this is one of the bigger challenges for any fast growing company like ours, where you are bringing in a lot of new people, embracing them into your organization, empowering them while trying to retain your own culture. So that's an ongoing challenge. We have several initiatives. People focus on it, teams focus on it, both here and in India and Europe and anywhere else that we are.
Yeah, that's why I asked. What do you think are some of the biggest blind spots for CEOs in the second half of this decade?
Yeah. So look, the technology is changing so fast. If we don't embrace the technology, and if we are not the front runners in the technology, somebody else embraces it better, faster than us, the biggest blind spot would be that, where somebody disrupts us. So the thing that we have to be prudent about is investing in the next generation and not be afraid of disrupting ourselves. So even if it means that going back to our customers, if we can do more for less for our existing customers, we have to be the first ones taking the technology, building those capabilities, going to them with the latest, not just tech but business use cases and so on. And that's where we have been
Yeah.
investing in building the platforms, acquiring these companies. If we don't do it, I'm pretty sure there are other smarter people who will do it. So that's the biggest thing that we have to be not afraid of, investing in ourselves, in capabilities, going to market faster.
Well, yeah, like this new software platform that you developed that seems like a competitive advantage that will use AI, or it's already using it, to minimize the steps needed to create a software layer or a platform or a product. And what's that going to do as you forecast out your employee base? From 23,000, usually doubling the company means doubling the count. That's going to change, right? What's the impact on the people What's the change, I guess, going to be in the type of people you have now versus a few years from now?
So the you're absolutely on the right path. If we look at the $2 billion, let's say at $1 billion, if we had 20,000 employees, I don't
Hmm.
think we need 40,000 employees to do $2 billion. The $2 billion will happen with lesser number of employees, employees who have embraced AI and the latest generation, where we are able to bring more value to our customers and hence get a disruptive, positioning in the market, disruptive market share from our customers, and also better pricing. So by bringing more value to the customer, we'll be able to get better revenue per employee, better profitability per employee, because we are bringing much more value. We are not just going as humans, we are going as human and platform put together, platform, tools, processes, which are next generation. So that's the direction in which we are going. So if you look at the average persistent employee today versus what it would be 3 years from now, that average persistent employee will be using far more tools and will be delivering far faster work, more productive, output to our customers than our nearest competition.
Right. So when you look at hiring the next generation of employees, what's your advice to them? It's like you need to be doing this, so I will hire you in a couple of years, versus what you used to be doing.
So it's all about being curious. It's all about embracing the latest. It's all about experimenting with the latest, being open to learning. So whether it is a lateral employee or a fresher, for the people who are just joining the workforce, I would basically say to them, be hungry, be foolish. This is a time for you to invest in yourself. Time to enjoy life and go out in the evenings and have a glass of wine is far away. This is the time when you need to put the foundation for yourselves for the bigger skyscraper to come. For the people who are in the workforce, in the middle layer to the senior layer, I don't think this is the time to be complacent. The times are changing. We have to literally embrace the newer generation of technology, and so invest in yourselves to be relevant in the years to come. As long as you're doing this, whether you are a new employee or a lateral employee, with enthusiasm, with positive energy, embracing the change, that's where the survival of the fittest will happen.
It's good advice. If you look back at yourself, even since 2019, 5 years you've been at this, impressive results. How have you rebooted yourself? What's your leadership style? I'm sure if I ran some old videos of you, you'd probably be saying different things. You seem really agile, which is like table stakes now. Yeah, how's the journey been for yourself?
Yeah. So if I look at the overall journey for myself over the years, I've done different roles with. So I used to work for HCL Technologies, a much bigger system integrator. There as well, I did different roles. I did outsourced product development. I started Latin America and Canada. I did pharma as a vertical before leaving that. And at that point in time, I was very curious about the private equity landscape. So I went and joined a private equity IT services firm, working with the different private equity portco companies and so on. So at every point in time, wherever I was getting comfortable, I thought it was a time to change and learn something different. The same thing here. When I joined Persistent, we were a $481 million firm, far more contained. I could do a lot more things the way I would have wanted to do. With a period of time, we brought in much more leaders, much more diversification of revenues, whether it is industry verticals, service lines, building newer geographies, bringing newer acquisitions. Every part of this took newer learning, and even every day today, as I said to others, one has to be hungry and curious to learn more, and that's where a lot of rebooting has happened over the years. So brick by brick, learn newer things, launch yourself into a different mode of working.
Yeah, what are you most excited? I mean, we're big believers of lifelong learning here. So, what are you most excited about learning next?
Yeah, so basically, you know, in our industry, as you said earlier, the whole linkage is, if you have to increase revenue, you have to increase headcount. The biggest thing that I'm excited about is the opportunity to learn how to disrupt this, how to be the challenger in this market, and how to morph Persistent into a very different technology services company, which is significantly different, AI led, human driven, that kind. So that's the challenge I would want to address. If we are able to do that successfully in the next 3 years, we would have not only delivered a $2 billion company in terms of revenue, but significant value to our customers, significant value to our shareholders, and laid the foundation for the 5 to 10 billion Persistent to come.
Yeah, sounds like a smart move there. You've been through a lot. Working for private equity is no easy task. When you were at some of your other companies, you acquired other companies and have lived through a lot of what have been some of your biggest challenges that have affected you, positively, negatively, as you've grown over the years here?
Yeah, so I would say a lot of these things positively impact you. I definitely believe in bringing positive energy to the table. I would rather surround myself with people, despite challenges, they have a smile on their face and they're willing to take on more, rather than get bogged down with things. So if I look at the several things, just to give you examples, the COVID times, honestly, none of us knew where we were going. But when you lead a company where you have 20,000 employees or so, and you, at that point in time, if you don't know where you're going, you still have to be straight faced. So being a leader is where the buck stops at you. Something good happens, credit goes to everyone else. Something bad happens, the credit goes to you. And you have to empower your teams, and they have to have the confidence to go out, experiment, try bigger things, knowing fairly well that if they fail, it's a learning and they move on. So there are many such learnings in life. So good challenges.
Yeah, what have been some of the toughest challenges you've faced?
So the toughest challenges are, scaling the company where you know that the leadership that you have today may not necessarily take it there. So rebooting as you are performing.
That's usually one of my questions. Yeah, is the team that got you here the same one? So when you first came in, uh, actually probably for the last three companies, you've had to reboot the team. What was that like?
Yeah, so it's I would say in a slightly different way. Yeah, you reboot the team, but what you do is this: you don't rush into rebooting the team. You understand the team, you understand the fabric of the team,
Right.
you understand and define the mid to long term goal, see the structure that is needed to deliver to that, see who fits where, and then figure out the white spaces. And those white spaces, you bring people from outside that complement the team that you already had. Otherwise you will have a little nightmare on your hands. If you basically challenge everyone internally to take on more and then fill the white spaces with people from outside, and then let the things play out. So we have seen in Persistent, if you look today, our management team looks a lot different from what it used to look 5 years back. But it's a healthy blend of old and new. And there are many people from the earlier times who have scaled very nicely as well. So building a team is always a challenge, and even from here to the next, I'm sure there'll be more changes.
And if you look at your top leadership team, how many people are on that now?
So in the top leadership team, my directs would be in the range of 8 to 10. So the people who control the P&Ls, the people who run corporate functions and so on, those are the key folks.
And if I ask them, how would they describe your leadership style? What would they say about you?
So they would say fairly hands-on, fairly
That I can tell. You're very intense. I like it.
fairly
I
positive
don't.
energy.
You couldn't have doubled the company that quickly without being that hands on.
Yeah, it's basically being with the troops. See, the whole thing has to be to define a common rallying cry. If everyone aligns to the common goals, and then
Yep.
everyone partakes a piece of that and delivers very well, working very well with each other, that's where the fun is. And that's my management style, and that's where getting the right people, positive energy. Have we made mistakes? We have made some mistakes on the way, but that's part of the
Yeah.
course.
I hope so. You've got to leave some room for that. If not, you're not being realistic. But
Yeah,
would they describe you more as a peer?
kind of, yes. Because if you
Sounds like
if
it.
you look like there's no here to here. It's always a kind of a peer to peer discussion. I don't know
Yep.
everything. I learn from others on a daily basis. It's a healthy discussion, but yeah, I do have the veto right at times, but that doesn't mean that I take all the decisions.
Right. Exactly. And where do you and the team, like if I ask them all, where do you guys want to take this thing in 5 to 10 years? Where do you want to be?
So one is the revenue side, and I'll come later to that. We want to maintain Persistent's position as a leading tech services company, very differentiated. We don't want to, if you look at our bigger competitions, if Accenture is here, somebody else is here, we don't want to go to that turf. We want to define our own turf. We don't want to fight people on their battleground. There's a battleground that
Ah,
we have. We have a fairly strong technology capability in outsourced product development, very relevant to enterprises that are trying to be digital and trying to create internal, external facing products. Good domain capabilities in BFSI and healthcare life sciences. We want to double down that. We want to be the green apple in a sea of red apples of IT services. Very differentiated. If we do that, build on our capabilities in AI, whatever comes next in our technological landscape, partner well with the leading hyperscalers and other tech companies, take an ecosystem to our customers, I'm sure we'll be a 10 plus billion-dollar companies in the next 10 years.
makes sense. And if you were giving your 22-year-old self some advice right now, what would you tell everybody?
I would basically say stay the course, be hungry, be foolish, be curious, invest in yourself, and have fun. If you are not having fun at the place that you work, change the place. But work for good people wherever you work. Give it your best.
And when it's hard to have fun when you're over $1 billion company, how do you keep the fun going?
It's a lot of fun when you're over $1 billion company. It's actually even more fun because today,
It's
see, our landscape has changed. When we were $500 million company, our competitive landscape was very different. Today, when we are in the deals that we are fighting, we have everyone in our crosshairs and we are in the crosshairs of everyone. So it's good fun fighting against the biggest people in your sector and winning against them. And today I can say for sure every boardroom in our sector, they talk about what Persistent is doing differently. We have grown in the last 5 years like 12.9%, 35%, 35%, 14.5%, and we are on a good clip, industry leading clip even today. Consistent. And just on a lighter note, in our industry, the number of sequential quarters from a listed landscape in India, we are the highest. We have 17 straight quarters of growth, both revenue and profitability, stable to growth if we look at it in the last 17 quarters.
you say 70?
1 7.
17. Phew, scared me there. Not too many companies have done that. Cisco did that for a very long time, so that's pretty impressive, Sandeep.
And we have delivered 1,500 plus total shareholder return in terms of percentage over the last 5 years. It's maybe 4 times what any of the leading, I will not name the companies, whether it's the hyperscalers or the others have delivered. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you've done well. Sandeep, I want to thank you for joining us. It's been a great session.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Sandeep Kalra, who is the CEO of Persistent Systems. This is Dean Tobias with the Reboot Chronicles. I want to thank you for joining us today, and we'll see everybody soon.